9:30. We call the Public Service Committee meeting to order. Anybody here recording the meeting outside of us here? Doesn't look like it. First item on the agenda is review and approval of minutes for December 15th, 2023.
Mr. Chair, I waive the reading of the minutes and propose to accept them as presented.
Motion made to waive the reading and proposed as accept as proposed. Second. Motion made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Second item on the agenda, we have water and sewer appeals. So the first water and sewer appeal we have is 241 Clark Street.
Uh, 241 Clark is not here, however, Nicole Terrace is.
Okay, so we'll jump to 36 Nicole Terrace. Hello, welcome. How are you today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. So we have an appeal from your residents.
Yes.
Did you kind of want to take us just through it real quick?
Okay. I just went vacation in, I think it can be a couple months ago. And before I went, I checked all around my house. Everything can be okay. But when I came back, I just hearing something outside. When I check, I saw like water running outside. That's first time happened. Always I went vacation, but that's nothing happened. And I think that's still like maybe like 50 days, 40 days, depend how is this happening. And always I pay like around 250, 300, that's my bill. And I think that it can be going up like 2,000 something. And I just, you just mail it to me for I am going up for the water. I think that's gonna be heaven for that story. And I just received like 2,094 something.
Yeah.
And that's so much.
You must have been shocked when that happened.
Yeah.
Do we have any questions?
Was anybody else at the house at that time when you were gone, or was it an empty house? And
No, that's only this happening, but everything is gonna be good.
All right. Well, thank you. Typically, with the review here.
Yeah. As far as his water usage, obviously, is way higher than, like 10 times higher than what it was normal. His last few sewer bills were about $80 and $85. Just to give you an idea of what his sewer bills were.
Okay.
as the water did not go through the sewer system, you comfortable making a motion to reduce the sewer portion of the bill, less the typical monthly amount, which it should be $80. So a motion to reduce sewer by $805.
Second. Motion made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion. So we will move forward with that, sir. Thank you.
Now how can I pay, or I will receive other bill, or?
We'll send you an updated bill
Oh,
We'll send
okay,
it to you.
okay. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing it to our attention.
We'll check, see if Clark Street's.
I wasn't sure if we typically had them. And then we made No, sorry. Have we taken action now?
We have not taken action on 241 Park Street before. Typically, we could leave it on our calendar for the next
Okay, we'll leave it on the calendar. Next item is item number 3 here. We'll go to department updates, starting with Public Works.
Rob and I had a conversation about how detailed we wanted to get in and how long we wanted this meeting to go for today. So we'll try to make it quick unless you guys have questions. My biggest concern with the DPW is our staff levels. George has heard this probably every month for 2 years. We are currently, of the 27 positions we have in the DPW, and that's on the city side, we have 9 vacancies, and that includes, there's gonna be a retirement, 2 retirements in March. They're actually out right now. One will be out, and one is currently out. So there are 2 other vacancies, that's included in the 9 total vacancies that we have in the city DPW side. The problem that we have is basically our salaries are not high enough to obtain someone with licenses. I was able to hire someone actually with a CDL the other day, but that's probably the first time in 5 or 6 years that we've actually hired someone with a CDL. Typically, they'll come in, they don't have any licenses, we hire them as a laborer. They may stick around for a little while, but honestly, Walmart and McDonald's pays $2 more an hour than the city does. If they do stick around and they do get their licenses, they go to a private company after. It's kind of a revolving door with new employees. So that's the largest issue that I have as far as the DPW. The mayor's aware of it. Their contract expires June 30th. So the mayor and HR will be negotiating that contract, hopefully, and adjust the salaries. So that's where we are as far as the DPW.
Have we done assessments of the neighboring communities and where they're starting as opposed to where we're starting? Have we done any type of work like that?
We have internally.
Yeah.
I've reached out, the clerical has reached out, and we are significantly $2 again lower than communities. And as far as truck drivers go, we're $6 lower than neighboring communities.
Hard to come by.
Yeah. I mean, oh, sorry.
I'm just wondering about the specific jobs. I know you mentioned people with CDL. I'm just curious about what specific jobs need to be filled, and then also I'm curious about contract negotiations. Is that only the mayor and HR participate in that? Do we not? We don't. Okay. And how many? My understanding, I guess, is that all of the salaries would need to be negotiated, not just DPW, but negotiated higher, right? So are there multiple unions?
Yes.
And when we talk about the DPW union, who else is included in that particular contract?
So the DPW union consists of foremen and then the Highway Association crew, which is, I have six foremen who are their supervisors, and then the rest of the crew under them fall under the Highway Association. There's clerical, which is in City Hall and here as well. Their staff, they're a separate union. Then obviously you got police, fire, school.
So it's negotiated by the school committee.
Yeah. So every contract has a reopening clause. So if DPW gets an increase, it has to open up the rest of the contracts, unless it's negotiated when it's when it's expiring, I guess.
It expires in
June 30th. Yeah.
So that wouldn't open up. I mean, because do all the contracts expire on June 30th?
I think the way the city is set up is, yes, every contract is expired on the same, I believe it's expired on the same day.
And then a reopening clause, does the school system, does it fall into that as well, or is that since
I would
negotiated
assume-
separately?
I don't know their contract specifically, but I know police and fire has a reopening, DPW as well, so.
Okay. And then the specifics, like, you know, I know you said there are 9 vacancies, including ones that are gonna be opening in March. What jobs are those specifically?
2 foremen. So currently our foremen have CDLs, 2A licenses. They have licenses to run mowers, like flail mowers, catch basin cleaners. We're gonna be replacing them with people that don't have these licenses. But we have to fill that vacancy. So then what happens is now, once the foreman position gets promoted, I'm taking from within the department, now I have a vacancy lower, I can't fill them with anyone other than laborers. So how does that affect, it slows down our operations because we might have one driver, one person that has a CDL in municipal grounds, for instance. They might have one, whereas we might need 2 or 3, where we should have 2 or 3 people with CDLs. It just slows down our efficiency. During winter, when our streets, when we get these large snowstorms, we're plowing with pickup trucks, which are faster. I mean, you can drive a lot faster than, say, a large dump truck. However, if you get a snowstorm with 16 inches of snow, you can't push the road back. So now, we got a pickup truck keeping the road, but now we have to have somebody come in behind them with a loader or a 6-wheeler. By now, the residents have cleaned their driveways, and the phone rings off the hook because we're pushing back their driveways 6 hours after the storm started. So it's just, you know, it's a trickle-down effect, we'll say, throughout everything.
I don't know, you've probably gone through this, but do we have any way to incentivize promotion of them getting their CDL, or?
That would have to be a contract issue. I mean, we offer.
Just food for thought as we move forward. I mean, I would think that, you know, if it's as important as it seems.
Again, that would have to be a contractual
Yep.
negotiated. We do offer to pay up to, I think it's $2,000 for school, but unfortunately, to go to get your CDL class now, it's almost $5,000, some of these classes, so. It pays for some of it, so, but not all of it.
Gotcha. And how long is that training?
I think it's a month, at least.
Is that off time, or is it?
It's during work hours, so we allow them to take a city truck down to the
Okay.
class and do it. So there's some incentive there. But now they have the choice, do they take the city's money and then have to either pay it back if they leave? Most of them pay it themselves and move on once they get their
Gotcha.
licenses.
So you mentioned McDonald's, Walmart, I mean, that there are CDL drivers all over, right? Oil truck drivers and box truck, right? Are those all CDL? Like, do those companies generally pay less than the city, or
Well,
are
they
they
pay far,
comparable?
far more. There's a giant, it's nationwide, a giant need for CDL drivers right now. It's not just Gardner with a demand, but we just haven't kept up with salaries.
And we've been pretty fortunate this winter, just 2
So
major
far.
snow events so far. Yeah, and I should know about something. How would you rate the department's performance? Is there any?
The guys are phenomenal. I mean,
Yeah, the
they
streets
take
seem well.
pride in their work, and you could not ask for a better DPW crew.
Fantastic.
Definitely want to commend you, because even the 1 or 2 issues that I've had, we've addressed right away, and they've done a great job, so appreciate your leadership.
Almost to a fault.
Yeah.
You know, because people won't realize what, you know, where we're at.
100%.
Over the summer, when we were short a bunch of staff, you start realizing grass growing in the parks and the playgrounds. That's when you see it. And that's when things started to, you know, word got out there as far as like where we were. So until you visually see it, you won't know. Because the crew is, like I said, they're their own worst enemy in a way, because you won't notice that. They work twice as hard to get it done.
Yeah, no, that's my evaluation. I was just curious, because it isn't apparent, because the roads were cleared very well. If there was other projects that got left behind or by the wayside, just because of the guys are doing overtime to keep the snow off the roads type of thing, so people are aware of it.
Yeah.
So, actually, in terms of overtime, are we paying folks a lot for overtime? And, I mean, if I mean, is that something that's happening where there's a lot of folks working overtime and that could be funds that could be used to hire additional staff or increase salaries?
Well, the guys are definitely working overtime, they're working 40 hours.
There's 8 extra spots.
Yeah,
9 extra spots.
they're filling, so they're working another 50% more.
Okay. And are there any pools of money that we haven't applied for that you know of, the federal, state funds that could offset, I mean, to help pay for increases in salaries? That
I don't know of any grant that would pay for salaries. They usually typically pay for,
specific
Yeah.
roads?
I think when you get to the salary, the piece, it comes up in negotiations, and not so much as you can pay them above and beyond what's been negotiated in the contract, so that's ultimately what we have to get back to.
so that's an update on that. We are looking at, we have a bunch of various projects that are gonna be put on the capital improvement list, kind of a wish list. Our salt shed, you actually drove by it, it's falling apart. It's 40 years old, I believe it is. It's time to get a new one. We've got an estimate, we're looking at building one actually across the street. The mayor actually has said that he might have funds for it to get it funded this year to do that. So we would be doing most of the site work, construction ourselves, just to try to keep the costs down, removing the trees, doing the excavation, the site work, things like that. So we're looking at doing that, starting that this summer if funds are available.
Would you say the estimate was on it?
625,000. We have a sign room, a lines and signs department, which is down the DPW, which they are outstanding. They do signs for every department in the city. All your bandstand, any sign you see in the city, the sign department has made. They've outgrown their space. We've worked with the mayor, and we might be getting the sign room put down at Waterford Street School. There's a section of it, there's a pretty good sized area down there. So we're looking at moving the sign room down at that building. It's gonna come with a cost, because we gotta purchase some new equipment, and we have to do some internal work at the building itself, but we're estimating that's probably gonna be like 100 to 125 grand, but far cheaper than building a sign room, so.
In the annex or inside the school itself?
Inside the school itself, there's a couple of rooms, nursing rooms and things like that. Equipment, we're in okay shape. There's some things that we need to purchase. Since we've merged the water and sewer department under the city, we've been able to kind of merge funds to purchase equipment that the entire department shares. So we're able to use water, sewer, and city money to kind of keep the cost down of equipment for all the departments and share it. So, but there are some things that we need to purchase. The DPW building, the old one down there, that was built in 1970. We're gonna need to be doing some upgrades in that as far as some efficiency. We haven't so much outgrown the space, but technology's changed and it needs to get updated. So that's something we're gonna be looking at doing. Roads, we have about 100 miles of roads, and we need about $5 million immediately to pave all your bad roads. We get about 600 grand a year from the state. Sometimes they supplement that and might throw you 300,000 depending on what state funds they have. And then the city puts in 150 grand, and then they might supplement it in towards the end of the year if they have additional funds. So we might get $1 million to $1.5 million by the time we're done to pave city streets. We need $5 million, and they just, once the street starts cracking, it exponentially fails. So there's probably 40% of the roads that are in pretty bad shape that we could pave, but at least we need to do at least the top 15%. Questions on so far?
Questions about, I've seen the list of priority streets, right? But, when do you, I guess when you have only $1.5 million of $1 million versus $5 million, and you prioritize a street, how do you determine whether to grind it all the way down, repave, right, do it correctly, right? Versus just whatever the next,
Well, there's three different things you can do. You
Right.
can basically pulverize the road,
Right.
turn it to gravel, grade it, and pave it. That's if a road is really out of whack and whatnot, you'd be throwing away money if you just overlaid the road, because
Right.
you're using more in mix to fill the voids than if you pulverize it. The other thing is like what we're doing on Lower Parker, you can mill the top surface of the area. That's if the road's in pretty decent shape, but the top surface is broken apart, but the sub base is still in decent shape, so you can mill it. In other roads, if you're on a country road that doesn't have very much drainage and the road's still in decent shape, it's just kind of, you can overlay it. It's not the best thing to do, but you can get a lot more bang for your buck doing something like that. It just won't last as long. So who determines what street? We have a priority list about every year to 2 years. Myself and the business manager, we drive around sometimes with the city engineer, we drive around the street, we drive every single road. We rate it based on rating, and it's been prioritized based on the amount of homes, how much traffic, is it a school route, is it an ambulance route, things like that. So we prioritize it that way. We rate it, prioritize it, come up with an Excel sheet. We turn that over to the mayor, and ultimately the mayor and I sit down. It's his decision what streets get paved. But that's kind of the process.
Yeah.
Questions?
What about, is there a sewer separation stuff happening? Is that something that, you know, or utility companies or anything like that, that could potentially pay for roads because of the work that needs to be done? Or?
We have, when we did that water project a couple of years ago, most of the streets that were paved during that process, if they were a new water main, it was paved by water funds. We're gonna be looking at putting a new water main up on Washington Street. That road will get paved with water funds. But if it doesn't have water or sewer work underneath it, then I can't use water or sewer funds to pave the road. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
And that's kind of all, unless you guys have questions. I mean, there's way more to talk about, but.
Well, I'm sure, but any more questions for you? You want?
Sure. George, I apologize, you've heard most of this, so don't worry. I'm just gonna go through more current projects that engineering department is managing, starting with the Uptown Rotary. That construction was a TIP project, the state's paying for the construction, the city paid for all the design and engineering. As you know, it started this fall, so what they performed this fall were drainage mostly, the new drainage that was associated with that project, and a few other minor utility things. They buttoned that up for the winter, so that the city can plow it and not have issues. Right now, the plan is, contractor will be coming back in the spring to begin the at-grade improvements, removing the pavement, grading the area, doing the at-surface improvements. That job is estimated for completion in the fall, so it should be wrapped up this year. So that's that project. Wayside Dam, which if you're not sure where that is, it's located out on East Broadway heading towards Westminster. There's the Morse Electric Company, so there's a dam along their driveway, which is part of the South Gardner flood control project that the Army Corps of Engineers did back in the 60s. That dam needs to be replaced, so we currently have design ongoing. We're at the point with design where we've begun some of the permitting work. The project has been submitted to NEPA, which is an arm of the EOEA, the Executive Office of Environmental Affairs. In fact, I have a site walk with them on the 25th. I don't anticipate any issues. It's just an in-kind replacement of what's there. It's very similar in nature to the existing dam. So that is ongoing. Once design's completed, we will probably apply for a grant through the Office of Dam Safety for the construction, and hopefully, short of a match, the city may have to come up with. We're hoping, because this is an important project, especially for the Army Corps of Engineers. They want to see it get done, so they're pushing it along. Another big project we have as part of the North Central Rail bike path is the city is, through the tip list again, building a bridge over 140 to connect both sections of the rail trail. So the newest Park Street section, which Trevor Beauregard's office has been working on, will connect to this eventually. So the funds have already been approved for construction through the state and the Federal Highway Administration. The city, we need to get the final engineering done. Right now, the cost on that's about $670,000. We had gone, Mass DOT had been working with us for funding that. And at the same time, we applied for a grant through, I think it's through the Federal Highway Administration, for a portion of that. Didn't end up getting that grant. So back into conversation with Mass DOT about funding. What they've suggested is we apply for the Mass Trails grant, which Trevor's office had more recently got for 2023 for the Park Street portion. He needs no further grants from them, so we're applying for that. So that's a $500,000 grant to get the full award. So we'd still be looking at a shortfall there. Mass DOT has suggested that possibly they can help with that because they really, this is an important project for this, and this area's been underserved in terms of rail trails and things like that compared to the rest of the other parts of the state. So they're very keen on getting this done. So hopefully,
Somebody can find 170,000.
hopefully, yeah.
So this is bridge over 140. How much further down? There's already there's a drivable bridge over 140, right, on your Mount Which, is it?
Yes.
The back way there?
Yep.
So is it kind of, it's close to that area?
So this would be down so past Green Street, if you come down Green Street from the college and you went left, it's down in that portion, head towards Winchendon. So the rail trail doesn't connect out yet, but the north side of 140, the rail trail is there now.
Right.
So it would connect that to the future portion, which is basically from Crystal Lake Cemetery all the way down to 140. So that's literally the final piece of that trail. So it would be a significant improvement and very valuable to the overall community, not even just Gardner.
The funding you were talking about, or the cost, is that associated just with the bridge, or is that also the expansion of the trail from?
No, that's,
where is that?
Office of the Planning and Community Development has been handling the rail trail basically from the center of town to this point. So the engineering office is managing this piece and it's the final one. So the 670 is for the design, and then I think the construction cost is estimated at 6 to 7 million, which again is covered by the state under the TIP, the State Transportation Improvement Program. So it's literally just got to find the money to get the design done. So that grant application for Mass Trails is due February 1st, so it's coming up quick. I'm already working on it. It's not too intensive, so I don't see any issues, and I think we have Mass DOT in our corner who will advocate for us at the state level with DCR, who manages that grant program. The next one, we actually just received a grant for this from the Federal Highway Administration, or Federal Department of Transportation. It's called Safe Routes for All. So we received a $230,000 grant to develop an action plan as part of it's called the Vision Zero plan for traffic, pedestrian, vehicular, bicycle, all modes of transport that use our city roads, with the goal of 0 fatalities. So that's the Vision Zero. It takes a different approach than what's historically been used in determining, safe streets. So that money will be used. We'll have a consultant who will prepare our Vision Zero plan, our action plan. That will involve, there'll be a committee formed to work on that. So at some point, I'll be probably organizing that and asking the mayor for participants on that committee. As it's currently set up, we got the grant there is a match, however, we're matching it with in-kind services. So between the engineering office, the DPW, a committee, that time will be counted towards our monetary cost to our match. So at this point, if all goes well and we're able to get the time in, no cost to the city to develop this plan. Beyond that, in the future, once the plan is done and approved, we'll be going back to the same grant program for implementation to come up. There may be some fairly quick and easy things to do that the plan comes up with, They may recommend, intersection reconstruction based on accident data. Those are the types of things we'd be looking for future funding through the same program.
So that money is just only for a study?
Yeah, it's just for the developing the plan. But that will entail, some traffic studies, time on the ground, looking at accident data. So it's a pretty comprehensive study. So Crystal Lake has an outlet with Pond Brook, which is culverted right through the center of town. Basically runs from Park Street all the way down to Timpani. It basically discharges next to Burger King, continues under a couple more culverts, and eventually actually dumps right over here at the DPW where it opens back up. So through the center of town, over the years, with the police station, parking deck, have been improvements to that culvert, portions have been replaced. However, once you get past rear Main Street and Derby Drive, continues on down, those sections haven't been touched in a long time. We actually have one section near CVS, section of the CVS parking lot, we're having some structural issues with the culvert. So we had been working with an engineer to develop a plan to install what you call push pipe, a slightly smaller diameter pipe that gets pushed through the existing pipe, essentially aligning. The storm we had back in September, that brought a huge rainfall and caused all the flooding. FEMA has actually declared that, I believe, a natural disaster, so there's funds available. We did see more damage with that storm. So we will, with Dane and the DPW, the mayor's office, at some point be applying for funds for that as well, so hopefully we can get that work done. We had a cost estimate originally of $500,000 or $600,000 just for this 100, 200 foot section. So it's expensive work. It's I believe a 54-inch culvert. It's an old arch corrugated metal pipe, which they never last. So something needs to be done. So that's on our horizon. Only getting pushed a little further along because we know the work needs to be done. We have a bridge out on Mill Street near it's off of Timpani Boulevard 68, if you know where Superior Kitchen is. There's a bridge over Foster Brook, I believe, right there. It's been on, the inspections have been coming back from Mass DOT, it's in need of work. I believe through federal funding, the state is actually undertaking the design and replacement of that bridge. Typically, if it were on the tip list, again, we'd be responsible for all the design costs. I believe through funding, the state's just gone ahead and they're gonna do it. So I met with them, I met with Mass DOT, the engineer who's gonna be doing the 25% design for Mass DOT back in December. So they're getting that process started. So in the end, hopefully the only expense to the city will be when it gets to time for construction and the plans are completed, if there's any easements or takings required for the construction, the city would likely be on the hook for getting appraisals done and securing those easements.
You said it's on Mill Street?
Yep.
So it's in that GRA land? Isn't GRA own?
GRA, yeah, the old Garbo site
Yeah.
would be down the end. This isn't the city's right of way, so that it's a municipally owned bridge.
Okay.
So the city's on the hook for, upkeep, maintenance. I think we're lucky at this point that the state is just found it in their heart to, take care of it.
I agree 100%. I just
So,
curious.
yeah, that was good news. It kind of came out of the blue where just all of a sudden one day I got a meeting invite and they're gonna do it, so.
Good.
That's that. The biggest thing going on right now, in terms of the city would be, the water sewer department would be the sludge landfill expansion that's proposed, and Dane's been working on it for years. As it stands now, we're still in the middle of permitting and design. The design is basically done. We're at a stage where, again, with MEPA, with the state for permitting, there's been some opposition from some community members on expanding the landfill. So Right now, MEPA has asked that we basically do public outreach and have some public information sessions, which with our consultant, they're working on that now and setting those up. So that will be coming up in the somewhat near future. Once that's done, the final environmental impact report gets submitted to MEPA with all the information garnered, with alternatives analysis, cost analysis. So that's an ongoing thing. It's been going on for some time, but there's still action happening on it, kind of behind the scenes. So
There'll be a public meeting.
yeah, there'll be a public meeting soon.
So, I'm trying to understand the timeline and, for the expansion and where, at what point is determined whether or not it's expanded, or if we're shipping stuff down to Fitchburg when they have their anaerobic digestion up, or if we're considering what residents are proposing, and the possibility of generating funds, maybe those funds could be used for salaries, right? Are these things that we're considering? I know there was a study done, but I don't think there's anything done after that, right?
So there've been a lot of alternatives that have been looked at. Right now, the existing landfill has, what, 3-ish years before we're at capacity. So it's critical.
3 years?
Yes.
Plus or minus.
Yeah, it depends on the volume getting trucked over, what we're producing, but we essentially have about 3 years. So having a solution in place before then, and again, that's why Dane's been working on this for years. Yeah, we've looked at all the alternatives. As you know, we hired a consultant to do a feasibility study for their technology to deal with the sludge. They produced a report. The report is, I don't know, 60+ pages or more. It's a lot of reading. It makes a lot of assumptions. It makes a lot of claims about costs and revenue that can be generated, all of which depends on basically creating a regional
Facility.
a regional facility like Fitchburg's trying to do, so everything in that study that would generate revenue, or at least result in a better return on investment on the capital cost of building this facility, relies on trucking in waste from other communities, and also trucking in a lot of food waste from private entities, which, as a community, that's quite an undertaking, and if you can do that, it also talked about tax credits or incentives for carbon. I don't understand all of the language, but the way it was presented to us, we'd have to be working with corporate partners to sell carbon credits and to get the full impact of credits from the federal government.
And you're also left with a waste byproduct that
Right.
still has PFAS in it. So they're like, oh, we'll sell it to a concrete company and they'll put it in the concrete. Well, at some point, the state's gonna, which they've already shut down one of these projects down, I believe it was in Taunton, or one of the proposed designs down in Taunton. So you're stuck with a PFAS, or I should say, waste that has PFAS in it, especially if we're taking it from other facilities, that we would then still have to find a spot to get rid of it. So you're still either selling it to concrete manufacturers that may go away if the state decides they're not gonna allow it, and then the city would be responsible for, again, getting rid of or disposing of this product, so.
And that's one of the biggest things, it's the PFAS. We met recently with our consultant, who actually have a consultant within their firm who kind of specializes in this. And so there was another facility in Taunton that was up for permitting. At the state level, I guess the state passed legislation dealing with PFAS that impacts how you discard and get rid of it once you use a process like this, and essentially pushed it down the road because nobody knows the implications of the PFAS. Years ago, as an example, Maine accepted a lot of sludge from other states, and they were land applying it. They were using it like fertilizer. When the whole PFAS thing came to light, they just cut it off completely. They said, we're not taking any more, you're not putting it on the land. They came to quickly realize that's a problem, because now what do you do with it? So they're, as a state, trying to fast-track technologies to deal with biosolids sludge, and especially the PFAS component of it. Massachusetts is kind of lagging behind in that at the state level. So the facility that we had, SOMAX, the feasibility study they did, at this point, nobody's been permitted in the state. And there's been, I guess there's been one pilot study in Manchester by the Sea, but it's not, it's just a pilot facility. It hasn't been permitted fully yet. So we're looking at a technology that A, could change in 5 years, and we've spent $20 million on a facility, and B, there could be other advances in technology that would make it obsolete. So we're in a really weird time in terms of dealing with these biosolids. So this latest, the next, well, not the next, but the environmental impact report that we will be submitting to MEPA in the future once we have our public sessions, we'll have a very detailed analysis, more current than what was presented to the council in 2016, 15.
Feels like 10 years ago.
So yeah, again, we're looking at modern technologies, we're considering legislation and permitting and all that. So briefly, having a landfill is still, it's worth its weight in gold, because we can put it there for, right now it's sized for 17 years of additional storage. We think it might go longer than that, because just based on volumes, but a lot can happen in 17 years, where hopefully this technologies kind of materialize and come to light, and everybody can deal with this. Because right now, when pressed, talking to our consultants, they seem to think that Maine's on a 5-year track to start getting these things approved. And when I pushed, and I said, well, you said Massachusetts kind of behind, what do you think? And she said, well, we're probably 10 years out on legislation and permitting, and so, yeah, there's a lot.
I feel like this PFAS thing is important, to get ahead of. I don't necessarily think that we need to wait for the state to tell us, be careful with putting PFAS in the waters. Be careful of it seeping into the drinking water. I think that we need to try to figure out now how to get ahead of that before. Why wait for the EPA or whoever to crack down and say, oh no, now you guys got to do something. I don't personally think that that's good practice. Also, I think this I don't know where Fitchburg is at with the anaerobic digestion, but I feel like that should be equally considered.
We have looked at it.
Yeah.
You're still hauling, whether you're hauling to Fitchburg or hauling to Woonsocket, Rhode Island. There's still a fee that you have to truck it. You have to pay a tipping fee.
Right.
And the landfill is still, right now, it's just, once you build it, it's there. You have control.
Right.
I just want to reiterate too, because I think there's been like this false narrative that have been pushed around that the SOMAX study that the city paid for is just nothing's happening with it, whereas in fact it is being used, because we do have to seek alternative solutions as part of the environmental impact report for the sludge landfill expansion. So I think we have to be vigilant too about how we speak about this matter too, in terms of, the city's looking at alternatives, we spend money on looking on alternatives. We have a problem that's going to face the city within the next 3 years. We have a solution on expanding it that's relatively low risk, and it's an area where technology is rapidly evolving, so it's, I think, in our best interest to kind of
Certainly.
be smart about it.
Yeah.
Certainly. So.
And quite honestly, if we go through the permitting process and we get it all permitted, and we're ready to start construction, and a magic wand, something comes out, a new technology or something opens, another door opens, we don't have to still follow through with construction, but we definitely need to get that permitted and have a plan in place.
And for expansion, it's all internal, that's not like subcontracted?
Well, we'd have to hire we'd go out to bid, hire a contractor that would have to be constructed, the liner and everything. We wouldn't do that in-house, it's far too large.
And the sludge landfill is currently operated by our contractor Veolia, who manages the water and wastewater treatment plants. So that would be under their scope to just continue operating the new landfill. So that's bring it up again, but that's the sludge landfill currently where we're at. And basically all I have to.
I have a few more questions.
Sure.
Sorry. I'm curious about the South Main Street Bridge. Is that something that's being looked at or considered in terms of?
The problem with that bridge is it's shared with the railroad. And probably 15 years ago, the railroad came into the city and they wanted to close that road because they wanted to reduce the amount of railroad crossings on streets. So they asked us to shut the road down. We did not. And then our bridge, basically the state performed an inspection, determined that it needed to be closed. So in order for us to fix that bridge, we need to get permission from the railroad. That ain't gonna happen. It's just, that bridge will never be open again, unfortunately.
Why wouldn't the railroad, because, why do they wanna have less, crossings?
It reduces their risk for automobile accidents, pedestrian, but mostly automobile accidents they're trying to just limit the amount of crossing. And they have basically war powers strength. They're stronger than any government agency you'll ever talk to. So that's.
The other one I know we were in communication about, the storm drain that's on the private property on the corner of Lawrence and Elm Street. My understanding is that there's a state stamp on top of the manhole, and that there's, this ties into the city sewer system, right? Storm drainage system. I'm just curious about how, obviously we can't fix the wrongs of the past, right? But somebody in the city at some point gave permission, right, to tie into the sewer system, right? And I understand that line is collapsed. I'm just wondering, because it's really kind of frustrating that we have this vacant property that is owned by, or is in receivership by someone, a law office in Lawrence, and the health department has, landscaped the land and cleared the sewer and sent the bill, but there's no accountability on the part of the private landowner. I guess, I don't know if this is the place to bring this up, but I feel like, meanwhile, residents are being impacted by flooding basements, right? It's just, there's gotta be, I feel like there's gotta be something we can do to help remedy the situation.
If you're unfamiliar, in between Elm and Lawrence, it's a very wet area. So what I believe is 100 years ago, 70 years ago, whenever they built those homes, they built it, and the contractor who built the homes realized that they were either a wet area or a spring or what was in that area. So they put in a drainage system that kind of ran parallel in between, on private property between Lawrence and Elm. And it ran down and ran basically where the church is, and it ties out into a municipal drain. We allow connections from private properties into city drains all the time. It does not mean that we now own that drain. And what I told that resident is, honestly, it's a private issue. I think that they need to sue or get an attorney and basically sue their neighbor to maintain the drain line that's under it. That's something the city, we can't start maintaining private issues. The taxes would have to double if we had to start taking on these.
Well, are there any environmental implications to, having a broken line that runs between, that runs into are there any other issues that are of concern to the city when a line is broken from a private residence, that we could use, to leverage, to get this property owner to do something? Is this something that the city can do rather than putting it off on
there? Is I have a lot of responsibilities, but I have no authority to
right. I feel like there's got to be some kind of enforcement. I don't know if it's, whatever the codes may be, to. I don't know. I feel like if you, or even if just like the the health department did, right? They maintained the property, sent the bill to the property owner doesn't pay it. You know, at some point, I don't know if they're paying their taxes, at some point, you know, if we did do something, you know, you could send the bill and then take the property, right? I mean, can't we do something?
Part of the problem with that is we have no authority to enter private property. Because it's a private drain, private issue. I actually had an email correspondence with the homeowner who's having issues with her basement. And I recommended two things. As much as I said, you're not gonna wanna hear this, you need to take either civil action against your neighbor, which nobody wants to do, and I understand that. Or,
That was a big cost.
well, anything I was recommending has a cost to it. Or the other was to hire a civil engineer to look at the issue and come up with recommendations. One recommendation I think for her is their own dedicated drain to connect to the city storm drain in Lawrence Street. Again, there's a cost involved with that. But as a community, unless there's something that I'm not familiar with, we can't just walk onto private property, dig up a drain, replace it, without implications. Now, as the property owner, I would appreciate if that were done, and if I didn't want to pay for it, I would pay for it. But I think we're overstepping from that standpoint. Now, is there, because her basement is flooding because of lack of maintenance on another property, is there a health issue for mold in her basement, that type of thing? Perhaps. But I think that's outside of, certainly out of Dane's purview.
And once you start doing something like that, it opens you up
Yeah.
for
Well,
everything else.
The sad part about it is, I mean, we live in New England, and I know this hasn't been an issue for this particular household up until 10, 12 years ago, but 75 to 80% of homes in the city probably at some point experience water in the basement. So if we start to do one thing for one person, it just snowballs, and it's a sensitive issue, and I'm not marginalizing it at all, because I understand there's monetary implications for the property owner. But every property owner sees monetary issues, whether it's replacing a roof or, you know, I mean, I get water in my basement, I have to deal with it.
I mean, this person, I mean, not the, she's in her 80s,
Yeah.
right? She's lost her heat, right? You know, in the midst of the winter, right? You know, it's just really
Yeah,
concerning.
unfortunately, it's an issue outside of this committee's purview, and
Right.
you can only help navigate the constituent through working with various department heads on advice and guidance.
Yeah, I mean, someone could certainly put pressure on the receivership owner to do something outside of, you know, the property owner next door. But again, it's a civil issue, and it's really, I think, difficult for the city to get more involved beyond that.
In the interest of time, unless we have any more questions, move forward to conservation.
So, I'm Douglas Dillon, the new conservation agent, just for anyone I didn't catch on the way in.
Welcome.
I'm here in lieu of Trevor. He didn't give me anything necessarily specific to bring to you guys, so I guess I'll just kind of give you what I have, which isn't very much. I've just been here about 3 weeks, only one meeting under my belt, there's one more tonight. So far, we are looking at the irrigation upgrades at the municipal golf course. I did a walk with Bill Frank the other week for that. The engineer is currently drafting up some solutions as far as water retainment in order to perform the actual construction, because it is it goes out about 50 feet or so into Crystal Lake, about 6 to 7 feet below grade. There's currently a steel corrugated pipe which draws the water up from the lake, and then that is the primary source of water for all the irrigation on the municipal golf course there. And there's been issues with severe corrosion with the current ducting there, and so it's going to be replaced with some sort of like a poly material. And the main concern is just kind of the actual fact that there's going to be construction occurring in the actual, essentially, lake shore. And so there's just great care being taken to ensure that there's no impact to water quality or anything really. So there's a lot of parties involved, and everyone just wants to make sure like the water is protected and there are looking for products and solutions and kind of ways and work plans that are just being kind of mashed out right now, but nothing has been finalized. They don't have a DEP number from the state yet anyways. I gave them a call at the end of last week just to see kind of when that could be expected, and maybe this week. They are super backed up in terms of getting projects approved. For me, like, I need to wait on DEP to assign a project number to anything submitted under the Wetlands Protection Act, and then once they grant that number, then I'm able to further process it. And then we kind of have like a little back and forth, but the ball's in their court, and that's the case for a couple of our projects as well. Just kind of waiting on them for the number so that it can be handled and proceeded accordingly. So I will let you know if the next development as far as that goes. Then we have the 1010 Green Street, and they're expanding a substation fence. I don't know if you know where I'm talking about. It's like in between 140. It's actually next to the golf course and Eaton Street. In the woods, there's a power substation, and they're looking to kick out the fence approximately 10 or so feet because they're looking to install some new pad switchgear. So that's all very minor project. The actual installation of the equipment, they're exempt from me due to them being like an infrastructure kind of based project, but the fence, not so much.
John, I have a question about that. Is that you're talking about where the rail bed is there, that power station?
Yes. It was, when I walked it was super snowy, but I think so I couldn't see rail tracks necessarily, but I think, yes.
And is there any, because that's where the future bike path, I think, that
Yes.
your department's working on.
It's so like the bike path kind of like runs along it like this.
Right.
The substation right here, they're looking to kick it out like that way.
To not, it's
Yeah,
not going to
yeah.
impact path. Gotcha. Thank you.
Towards the street?
This is like in the woods.
Yeah, no, I think I know what you're talking about.
They submitted it without an address. It's like A1, B2, right of way, utility, like
Yeah.
section, and I have to kind of find the address that's listed under on the tax, like parcel myself, which is 1010 Green Street.
Are those active rails or are those are?
It's just a dirt pad.
dirt pad? Okay.
Yeah, it's all like hard packed, like a walking trail, bike trail and stuff. North County Land Trust, they're doing some restoration work up on Key Street area. I'm currently involved in kind of talking with them. Their application was, I had to consider it incomplete due to a lack of materials being sent in, as well as the city fee was absent from their application as well, so I had to freeze that application.
What is that for again? Sorry.
They are looking to do some they own a lot of like conservation land at the end of Keys Street, and they're looking to just perform some like restoration, habitat restoration, like large scale. They're using a contractor, but their application they didn't complete the paperwork correctly. They didn't send a check to the city, and then they just kind of have to send better plans, and so we couldn't really determine what they wanted to do. They sent just like a printer paper with a scan, and so I told them, you can't see what you're looking to do, or so they sent some full-size plan drawings, and we're moving along with that. Let's see, 170 Mill Street. That's kind of something I'm walking in the middle of. Trevor has yet to fill me in. There's some additional details. From my understanding, that the property owner has this site, with a dam on it, and he wants to rehabilitate the property and then put like a sort of a contractor's kind of a warehouse or kind of a space for lease for like machines and trucks and something like that. But it's on a dam, which the stability of is of question. The DCR, Department of Dam Safety, is involved with that. Last I heard, the figure to bring it up to standard was something about like $1.2-ish million, and there's there's the conversations about how that will happen and to whom that bill will be sent to, and the involvement of the state in that regard. And so, nothing has been done yet. Everything, this is all in the super preliminary stages of things as well. And aside from that, I don't have anything else for you guys.
Questions?
No, welcome and welcome, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
If I may, I'd just like to throw out, we have water and sewer facilities. If you would have maybe an hour and a half at some point in the next year, reach out to me. I'd like to schedule a tour. You guys don't have to do it all together. You can do it at whatever you have. Just, I'll give you my cell number. You can text me and say, hey, can we do it on a Thursday and give you an hour and a half tour, 2-hour tour, whatever it takes. To at least show you the facilities and show you what the water plant does, what the sewer plant does.
100%.
We'll drive down the sludge landfill. I'll just point to it. We don't have to get out of the vehicle, but just so you know where they are, so, and what they.
Have you done that?
Yeah, you actually beat me to my recommendation. Former Chair Walsh had organized that, and I found it very useful to see the facilities, the vastness of the operations, and kind of the stretch across the city too. So, I highly recommend.
I was thinking about just making it a meeting, but we've already been through it. We won't do that. Appreciate one off. Sorry. Next item is council requests. Anything?
Question about the process, just because I'm a new counselor, right, is, so in terms of counselor requests, wouldn't it mean submitting petitions to the council and then being kicked here?
Historically on this committee, because it is public service and interacting with the city engineers and DPW department, if a constituent had a request in terms of like a tree, a suspicious tree, not suspicious tree. Definitely a suspicious
Where
tree
did that
should
tree
be
come from?
reported.
Poltergeist tree.
Yeah, definitely should be reported. No, but if there's potholes or certain areas of the city, berms, curbs, things to do with infrastructure in the city, we could discuss them here.
Lighting, sidewalks.
Streetlights, yep, streetlights are.
I got a couple of streetlights, I just don't, I haven't actually went and have the numbers from the poles, but.
I'll take those. You can always email that to me as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
As soon as you get them.
Yeah, there's that, and then, a couple of things that people, well, there's a lot of things that people have brought up, but I can probably just email them. One of them was sidewalks on Blanchard. I don't know if that's something that's being considered, but, it's schools, students walk there, elderly people from the housing development walk there, but the sidewalks are in disrepair. Talked about speeding on East Spring Road. I don't know where, if that's something, if that's a police or if that's here, but having like, I think it would be good to have like something like one of those electronic speed signs to kind of show people how fast they're going. I don't know if that's here, you said.
Reached out to the lieutenant, and he did it for me on Parker.
Okay.
And he can probably remove the trailer that he has with the sign.
Okay, no, I was thinking about something more permanent,
Yep.
but.
Yeah, it's more of a police issue. You could.
Yeah, okay, and then, what else is there? Folks were talking about on Crestwood, and again, it's a speeding thing, but around the corner, so Crestwood's a dead end, right? At the end, or around the corner, there was a hit and run. Because people don't realize, because the sign is really small, that it's a dead end, so people speed down, then they get down and they realize they turn around, right? Putting in, I don't know what they're called, but they're sort of like, maybe metal filled with cement pipes around the corner there. Yeah, to slow, or to stop people from, cutting the curb too fast if they're going down, and then maybe replacing the sign with something bigger. And I think it's like, the sign says dead end or something that kind of like stands out.
I would recommend the traffic commission unless you.
Is it traffic? Okay.
Just for an update on that, the owner of what is Highfield Road is actually looking to finish that from Hospital Hill up to Crestwood.
I was gonna ask about that.
So there might actually be some action on that.
Wait, you're saying that they're looking to finish the road? Or, and that's private, not public?
Yes, the piece that's You used to be able to drive down that or walk it, and it's
Right.
grown in over the years, but
And it's run out.
it's called Highfield Road,
Right.
out to Hospital Hill Road. And fortunately, the owner of 170 Mill Street owns that property, and he had been working with his engineer to bring that up, finish it, because there's a few buildable lots on it, so he'd like to get those on the market. And the only way to do that is to finish the road, build it. I don't know if that's ever gonna materialize, because he's talked about it over the years at different times, but, so.
I saw that was like, there was some paving there that was washed out. That was the other concern I was gonna bring up is, a couple of the property owners near Highfield were talking about runoff from Bickford Hill coming down and then going, and there's nowhere the water isn't directed, but to redirect the water down to Hospital Hill into the catch basin there. This is what the residents are suggesting, but I don't know if that's something that's been in discussion, or if this is private property, it's kind of like, you know, is there no city property between the end of Crestwood and Highfield and down to?
Yeah, those are all private.
It's all private
Paper
owned.
streets that are.
Okay. Did the city pave, or did the private person, because there was a portion paved that was quickly washed out.
So where Crestwood ends, there is an area that washes out just right down, I know it's
We
somewhere.
have an easement through there, so I believe the water and sewer department might have dumped some tailings in there. We didn't pave it, but I think we
Okay.
dumped some pave, just so that we didn't lose our, I guess, our water main.
Yeah, there's water in the sewer. That was installed
Right,
back
that's-
in the
yeah.
80s.
So there is water
Yep.
and sewer down along that path then, right?
Yeah, as an easement, though, we don't own them.
Okay. Thank you. And this is probably more, I'm just not thinking about right now.
All right, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion made.
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all for your
Thank you.
time. Appreciate it.